Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for coming over to Out on a Limb with Gabby Allen. Today, I am very overjoyed to bring you Vicky Burkholder. So we did Vicky Burkholder with world building. Now we're doing Vicky Burkholder as an author of fiction stuff this time instead of nonfiction stuff. And I am super excited to have her talk about all the things. I'm sure that we're going to end up going a little longer than we usually do because that's just how we roll. And so we're going to start out by doing our standard question, which is, Vicky Burkholder, what is it that you do and how do you do it?
I write fiction books and I do it by typing a lot on the computer.
That's not entirely true because you do handwriting.
I write it out longhand a lot of times, yes. And then my first edit is typing it in. I write mostly science fiction and fantasy romances, but this time I did a complete turnabout for me and wrote a sweet contemporary romance.
Do you love it?
I do.
Good.
I have a lot of fun with it. I think I was getting stagnated with my science fiction.
And world building.
There is a lot of world building. By going contemporary, my world's already built.
Yeah.
For the most part. I mean,
right.
I still had to build my world.
Right. But it's a little different to name the lodge and decide what time of year it is and you know what kind of people you want in your small town that's fictional versus, all right, how many planets are we talking about? Are there any blue people? What about green people? Does anybody have a tail? Do we need to worry about the tail? What happens to pants when you have a tail? And what about ears? Are your ears in the place where the human ears are? Or do you have fish gills? Do we need to have a helmet on with water? And so it does make a difference. Do you feel like it freed you up because it was less world building?
Did. Yeah, it really did, because I was able to focus more on the characters. Yes, I still have a lodge in central Pennsylvania in the mountains at Christmas time. So there's snow and there's lots of trees and things like that. But because I'm not trying to create the entire world from scratch, literally from the ground up, I was able to put more emphasis on the characters and the relationship between my characters. And I really think it worked out better that way for me.
Okay. So do you feel like this will maybe be, I've talked a couple of times now with people who are like moving back and forth between genres. And I move back and forth between like paranormal and then everyday world, but they're both mysteries. So your common denominator then would be romance. Do you feel like you might shift back and forth between these two for a little bit?
Definitely. I had so much fun writing this book that it's like, I want to do this again.
Oh, good.
But I have the science fiction series to finish out first. It's a series that I have 2 more books to write. Actually, 1 more book to finish editing and 1 book to write.
Oh, I was going to say, did I miss one?
No. It's finished. It just needs finished editing. And then I have the next one to write. But I think I'm going to flip back and forth just because this contemporary bit, it just flowed very well for me.
Yeah.
And it just gives me a break from the heaviness of creating an entire world or universe.
Yeah. Do you think that people will, like people who read your sci-fi stuff, will move into the contemporary romance? Because I had talked to somebody before and it's like the core story is going to be similar because it's your voice and it's the stories that you tell. It's just the wrapping is different. And so do you feel like that will move well back and forth?
I don't know. I hope so.
Yeah.
It is still my story.
Yes.
It is still my voice. It's just set in this world instead of another world.
Right. There aren't any blasters right now.
No, I do not have laser guns.
And no ships with AI.
Yeah, no sentient ships flying around, no asteroid belts that everybody's stuck in, no dragons flying around.
No hardtack and cheese.
No. Although we did have a little bit of cheese, but it was mostly cookies. These stories, that's one thing my publisher is doing, the Wild Rose Press.
Yes.
It's an entire series, each book by a different author, and they have to focus on Christmas cookies or Hanukkah cookies or Kwanzaa cookies, but they have to have cookies.
Okay.
To be the December holiday theme. So
I love it.
They're centered around that.
So do you think that you would do another like anthology with them, or are you hoping to like branch out into full-length novels on your own?
Haven't decided yet.
Okay.
I mean, they have a whole bunch of these themed series.
Yes.
And I could see myself writing for a couple of the other ones, maybe.
Okay. The ice cream one?
Yes.
Oh, very cool. Do you have an idea for that at all, or is it just something that you're playing around?
Not yet, but I'm letting it
percolate.
There, yes, it's
percolate. Okay. I've thought about doing the ice cream one too, and I've started it a couple of times, but then the one that I wrote or started writing, I was like, well, I really, really kind of want this to be a full-length book and its own series. So maybe not. I don't know.
Well, the thing about the themed series too is they're short.
Yes.
They are novellas, and that's a really pretty quick write.
Yes.
So it goes much faster than a 400-page novel.
Right.
I mean, mine's only 86 pages. It's like, wow.
Done.
Yeah.
That is nice.
Yeah.
That is nice.
I like that. Don't like the fact that you can't get them in print, but I do love how quick they are and how much fun I had with it.
Right. Well, and I mean, there's the possibility, I would think, that the Wild Rose Trust might put 3 into a book at some point.
There is always that possibility.
I mean, they've done stuff like that before. So if, they're very innovative when it comes to that. They seem to flow with whatever is going on. They will try to incorporate that into what they're doing so that you're like in the tide, as opposed to sitting up on the shore by yourself waving to the other people who are surfing.
I also always write 2 more cookie stories and have my own anthology.
You should ask. Absolutely. And they could all happen at the Gingerbread Lodge.
That's true, since I've already built that world.
And the Gingerbread Lodge has plenty of room for more people because it just got back in the swing of things.
And they're you've given me ideas now.
I love that. I love it. Sorry. No, I'm not sorry. I'm not going to apologize. I would love to see more of them. So to be fair, reader, listener, whoever you are, watcher, whatever it is that you're doing with us right now, Vicky and I have known each other for a lot of years, as I explained in my other one, and we are also critique partners. So I read The Gingerbread House, and I did not tell her where any commas go because she's much better at that than I am. However, I did say, hey, do you want this? And are you sure that they're wearing this? Because I didn't see them change yet. But I love sometimes when books spawn other things, and it makes you feel like, oh, I could see, and I am trying to get
You
myself
thinking now.
You're like, can we finish this later? I need to go write some notes. Can you pause? We're gonna pause so that Vicky can go write some stories here. But I think I'm trying to get myself into the 3 bookers, because lately I have been like 5, 6, 9, and I'm like, just can we do a 3, please? Because a 3 is a very nice beginning, middle, end.
Yes.
3 is a very nice, when it's over kind of thing. And recently I've been like, well, let's keep going, because like Tally Kensington is done with Tally. And I was like, okay. And then I got an email, several, that said, why am I not seeing more tallies come out? And I'm like, well, and they're like, oh, it would be the wrong answer to say that there aren't any more. But that's a different thing. It's a cozy mystery. So there's an expectation where it's not going to be a 3, but in romance, 3s are very much accepted. And so that could be a lot of fun for you. So if you're looking for me to apologize, that's not going to happen. I'm telling you right now. Just go ahead and start breathing again. Don't hold your breath for that one. You could do the London one.
That's what I was thinking.
You could pull the London one in.
Yes.
Okay, that's not going to be exciting to people who are listening to us, other than being like, auditory voyeurism of our brainstorming session. That's not going to be awesome for you. So let's get back to, so when you write, you tend to start with world building when you are sci-fiing, correct? So when you move into the contemporary, right? So when you move into the contemporary space, did you do it the same way, or because it was a different kind of book, did you start with your characters first this time?
No, I kind of started with the world because I knew I had to have, I had to have the cookie theme. So I had to figure out, okay, what are my favorite kinds of cookies and what am I going to have them making? And then it was like, okay, where am I going to put them?
Right.
And after I figured out the Christmas lodge or the gingerbread lodge and the cookies, then I built my characters around those 2 things.
Yeah. Yeah. I love, what's that?
I was doing my world building first and then the characters.
I love Christmas stories though, or holiday stories, depending on what holiday it is that you celebrate and what you want to, because I've read some beautiful Hanukkah stories also. But there is something magic about that time of year. I think partially it's that it's the end of the year. You have survived the rest. I think a lot of people are looking to the new year for, what do I want to do with myself in the next year? Some people are releasing the breath that they've been holding, through summer and fall.
It's a hopeful time of year.
Yes. And who doesn't love snow and mistletoe and stuff?
Yes.
And cookies.
Yes.
That's some good stuff. I love it.
And I mean, there are a lot of these books coming out, the novellas coming out, and there's so many different kinds. You've got some authors wrote mysteries, some wrote science fiction, most of us wrote contemporary, but there's all different kinds of subgenres coming out with these cookies. There's historicals. So it's really a wide variety, but they all have the same basic theme, which is the cookies, Christmas cookies.
That's really cool though. And I enjoy that that the Wild Rose Press puts out calls, I guess is what they would be called.
Yeah.
They put out a call for that kind of thing, so that there's really good opportunities to like cross promote also, because
yes, and
you have something similar.
We're going to be doing some Facebook stuff through the Wild Rose Press, and of course individually.
Yes.
We're promoting each other on our websites.
Good.
When we can. So all anybody has to do is look for the Christmas cookie themes, and they'll find something they like.
Good. Well, I had done years ago, they had one for the candy hearts, and it was Valentine's Day. And that one went really well. I mean, because it was really neat. Actually, it was when, I want to say that was when you and I had first started the whole shebang website, because I remember rolling a lot of those through the whole shebang website. You know, as they were coming out, I was putting them on the website and highlighting those authors so that we each were promoting each other. And they can be a lot of fun. I mean, right now, over the weekend, I was talking to somebody who was talking about writing in other people's worlds, and it's kind of the same concept, that there's something underlying that brings them all together, which makes it much easier to, you know, cross promote with someone, because you already have a similar scene. It's not just that you all write small town contemporary, it's everything has cookies.
Yes. Well, it's the Wild Rose Press actually had so many authors jump on this that they filled up not only this year's slots, but next year's slots as well.
Nice.
For the cookie themes. So they will be out both this year and next year.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. Well, and you know, I mean, I'm sure well, your cover is adorable.
I love it.
Yes.
I absolutely adore the cover they made.
Did you show us the cover yet? I know you showed me earlier, but I don't remember. That is so cute. I really do love it.
So do I.
Yeah, that's adorable.
That's one of my favorite covers ever.
Yeah. Well, and it defines what it is. I mean, having read the story, I can tell you that's very much a cover that speaks to exactly what's going on in it.
Yes.
Because it's a super cute story. That's a super cute couple. And, you know, just
snow.
Yes. The snow and the mittens and the hats and all that kind of stuff. And I love it. I mean, I really, really enjoy reading your sci-fi stuff. Which I'm not really a big sci-fi reader, but I do enjoy reading your sci-fi stuff, because I was just talking to somebody the other day and I said, I like the stuff where I could not build my own ship after I close the book. And you do not inundate with those kinds of details. Yes, you have AIs or sentient ships or whatever, but
I don't throw a lot of physics at you.
Right. And they're their own characters, so it's just having more characters, which I enjoy. They could be anything, but in yours they're sentient ships, and so I think you bring that into the contemporary romance. But like you said, you don't have to work as hard at the whole world building, because a lot of it is already there. You already know what money is. And for the reader, watcher, listener right now, that's part of, you should go back and watch Vicky's original podcast. I mean, movie would be good too, but podcast about world building, to talk about all the different things. But when you don't have to come up with the money system, the justice system, the legal system, who's in charge of what, do they have presidents, do they have dictators, do they have, you know, when I would say 65% of your world already exists, then you have the leeway to, like you said, concentrate a little bit more on, all right, well, what's the relationship here?
Yes.
So that's awesome. I'm excited. I can't wait for it to come out. Do you think you will do another cookie one, barring what I made you think about earlier? Do you think you're going to spread out among the different calls that they have?
It really depends. I have several ideas now percolating. Thank you. And I'll have to see what speaks to me.
Yeah.
I might do another cookie. I might do, there's an ice cream series. I don't see me doing a historical with the Wilder series.
No, I understand that.
That just, I like reading historicals. I'm not a huge fan of writing them.
No, I am horrible at writing historicals because, you know, I am going to be one of those people where it takes me, you know, 3 hours to write 5 pages because I get stuck on what are things called. Even though I read historicals, so I have heard all of the words but I must just not ingest.
And you have to know, when were zippers invented? When did somebody start wearing Stetson hats?
Yes. And
edited
what would be available, you know, like how do they get their beans? Now, I'm sure that to some extent you can kind of play with some of that because, you know, it is
a little bit
fantasy. But yeah, I have some historical ideas that I'm like, don't.
Well, it's like my husband and I are watching a series on Netflix called Merlin, which I have seen before. I love the series, and it's all about King Arthur and Merlin. And
I don't like the end, but okay.
Yeah, I know. They're using a lot of glass, and my husband's like, did they have glass then? It's like, yeah, glass was invented in 3500 BC. So yes, they had glass. They just didn't have glasses like we out of.
It was mugs.
Yeah.
And clay, I think clay cups.
And and metal. A lot of metal cups.
Yeah.
But you have to know things like that when you're writing a factual historical.
Right. It's one thing to do it in a world that doesn't exist.
It's one thing to do it in my fantasy worlds because I can do whatever I want.
Yeah. I mean, you could, because it could be 4852 in your world, and that's a whole different thing. They could still be wearing peasant clothes and using glasses if that's what they want to do, because you're making everything from the beginning. Whereas if you're going to historical, our world historical, you kind of got to
have to be accurate or relatively accurate.
Yeah.
I was an editor for a very long time.
Yes.
And I had an author who wrote a historical that took place in the 1860s.
Okay.
In Pennsylvania, Maryland. Okay, so we're getting ready for the Civil War. And she made so many factual errors.
Oh.
It drove me nuts because it was like she didn't do enough research.
Yeah.
And you have to do that when you're doing a historical.
I don't always hold that in my brain though. Yeah. I don't hold that much in my brain though. I think a lot of my brain is used for other things. So like I could potentially, like I have, what was that book that was really popular for a while? What Jane Austen saw and
war.
And somebody else.
What Jane Austen ate.
And what somebody else wore.
Yeah.
I have it somewhere. I'll have to look it up. But I read that. I read it from cover to cover and I was like, I'm ready. I can do, oh God. I don't remember. So to me, I don't know if I am not invested in the history enough to keep it up here, or if what is up here is more used for story elements that I don't necessarily keep it up there. Because I can certainly do that for paranormal. When I make my own world, I got that. But you know, in historicals, you kind of have to keep track of like what is happening for real in the world, what is happening in your area, would those two cross? What are they wearing? What are they drinking? What are they eating? You know, because there were times in England where it was so unsafe to drink water. That's why everybody drank beer, because it got distilled, and you know, they didn't know enough to boil off the water, or even if they boiled off the water, that doesn't mean that it was clean, because it was not. And there was
no, I would much rather write a futuristic or fantasy where I'm building my own world, or a contemporary
something right now.
Because I know right now that people wear tunics and or jeans and sneakers. I don't have to.
Yeah, you don't have to remember, like, figure out when people went from, you know, having shoes cobbled to being able to buy them at a, you know, like, when did the big box stores start? And that kind of thing. Although I will tell you, I find it funny because I had been talking with our friend Donna about writing a book that bounced back and forth between Prohibition and I was going to do now. And so I talked to Nan, who is my editor at the Wild Rose Press, and I was like, what do you think? And she's like, don't do that. And I was like, okay, well, what? And she's like, no, I love the idea, but doing historical and contemporary, that's too many line crossings. Can we make both of them historical? And I was like, I'm not very good at historical. And she's like, do you know that historical now starts in the 1980s? And I was like, oh, I have to go eat some kind of comfort food, because
really
that makes me historical. Because
that make me? Absolutely ancient.
Also historical. That's okay. But I was like, really, the 80s are considered historical, and they are, because it's 40 some years ago. I know. So I was like, because we were talking the other day, and I am like I'm all aflutter with the idea of writing a vampire that was changed in the 80s and then buried. And he comes out now and obviously doesn't know anything. And he's like, where's my boom box? I want my MC Hammer pants. And that, exactly. I'm like, well, do you want to look at my wristwatch? But you know, that would be fascinating, but that would be considered a historical.
Oh, that is bizarre.
Oh, yeah, well,
but at least I know that world.
There you go, right? I can tell you some things, although not all of them, because I was not, you know, looking around a whole lot in the 80s, because I was doing other stuff. So it's so interesting to me how things shift. We were talking about this right before we got started. I've been in this for, you know, 20 years, and Vicky Burkholder has been in a little longer than me. And just the shift, the difference between what is happening now and what was happening 20 years ago, what is something that people are pursuing now versus what people were pursuing 20 years ago. It's a huge jump. I mean, previously it was, you had to get an editor, and once you got an editor, then you could get an agent to handle you going forward. And then once you got an agent, you were pretty much set. Like, that was, they constantly, you know, they would shift with you as far as, you know, as genres that were popular, or they would build you up to the point where it didn't matter if your genre was popular, because everybody loved your stuff. And then it moved into like, okay, now you need an agent first to get into a traditional house, to then be able to do the rest of the stuff. And now, and at that point, it was like no self-publishing whatsoever. That was self-publishing.
There was no self-publishing no
Absolutely not.
ebooks.
They didn't even like you if you did ebooks. They
No.
thought that the only reason that you sold to a small publisher and did ebooks was because you weren't good enough to get into a bigger one.
Right.
And that was a very hard time for me to struggle, because I was like, no, that's not true. I am good at what I do. I want to start smaller because I'd rather learn where it's not as expensive to make a mistake. And but now it's like, there are people making millions of dollars self-publishing.
Yeah.
Publishing with Amazon. At first Amazon was, just send us your stuff, and now I think it's agent only.
Really?
I think so.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, that's changed. So some things are moving forward, some things are moving backward, and then sometimes it's hard. Maybe we should do a podcast about how things are in the market today. That might be a good one. Yeah.
We might
maybe we could do a round table.
Yes, Natalie, that's what I was thinking.
Talk Natalie into cut. We wouldn't be able to have her picture. She refuses to picture, but we could, her voice could be there, like God. I would play an organ chord before she comes in every time. Here comes Natalie. Da.
Yeah, everything is so fluid these days. Yeah.
You kind of have to just do whatever you're going to do and hope that it works
for you.
Yeah.
Anymore.
Yeah. Well, and people don't look anymore. Like, so long ago, not that long ago, and I'm not naming numbers again, but you used to go into Barnes and Noble to get recommendations for books. You went to independent bookstores for recommendations of books, and you might go to Kensington Zebra because you knew that you liked the historicals that Kensington Zebra put out. But so many people, they have no idea where their book is coming from anymore. They jump on wherever, usually the author's website, and they buy through there. Do you use Kobo? Do you use Apple Plus? Do you use are you a Kindle? Are you why can't I think of a Nook reader?
Kindle, Nook.
Right. So that's what you're buying. That's what determines what you're buying first now is, can I get it for my e-reader?
Yeah.
And then I've heard a lot lately about word searches, like keyword searches where people are putting in, this is the kind of, so they're not looking at, is it a Harlequin? Is it a Kensington? Is it a Wild Rose Press? They're just looking at, do you fit on my Kindle? And do I like your blurb or your cover or whatever? So I find that very interesting because it shifts so much of the focus onto, now give me a good story, as opposed to publish with the right house. Yeah.
It used to be you were loyal to Harlequin or Kensington.
Right.
I bought a lot of books from Kensington just because I knew I would get a good story from here. But now you go anywhere, you don't even necessarily have author loyalty anymore. It's like, I like to read this kind of book. Where can I find it?
Yes. And that, I think, is where the keywords come in, is that a lot of people are not necessarily reading just one author. They're saying, give me cozy mysteries with ghosts.
Yes.
And whoever comes up, if their blurb looks good, or if they've heard about them on Facebook, then they'll click a little further and they will maybe buy it because it's 99 cents or $2.99 or whatever, and they'll take a chance on it. And then if they like you, I think they'll look, I don't know that they look for you as an author so much, instead of, I believe they like type in the keywords, and then if they see you as an author, they will take a chance on you.
Yeah.
Because they know that they can trust the kind of story you tell, but they might not look just for you in the beginning.
Now, I know when a Gabby Allen story comes out, I ought to buy it no matter what.
I appreciate that, even though you've already read it because you critiqued it.
Even though I've already read it, it's on my
I do that too. You are an auto buy for me.
But if I look at other cozy mysteries or paranormal cozies or whatever, I sometimes look for the author, sometimes not.
Right.
There are particular authors that I automatically buy.
Yes.
Usually because I've got most of their books in a series and just want the next one in the series.
Right.
But I also just look for what I want in a story. I happen to love paranormal cozy mysteries, and I'll look for a lot of authors who do them. Some of them are very good. Some of them
not so much.
Not so much. Those authors I won't go back to.
Right.
But I have a list of authors that it's like, okay, I know she'll give me a good story.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so then that's my goal, is to be that kind of author, which we've talked about before. I want to be a go-to. I don't necessarily need to be an auto buy for everyone, but I really do want to be a go-to.
Yes.
And
for me, you are.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. You also are for me. But I think that, so going all the way back, because you know how we are with our rabbit trails, the core story is a big one.
Yes.
Because as long as so I will take a chance on an author. Let's say, for instance, somebody has only written contemporary romances up until now, and now they've written a paranormal romance. I will probably take a chance on them because I trust that even with the paranormal wrapping, it's still going to be what it is that they do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There are some authors that you'll follow into the next world just because they'll give you a good story.
Absolutely. And that also is a goal. That no matter what I write, unless it's my grocery list. I mean, I don't really expect you to buy my grocery list. I could certainly just give it to you if you wanted.
It probably wouldn't match what I need.
No, it wouldn't at all. At all. Not even my tomatoes would match what you need. I might be able to pass it with the shredded cheese. Probably. I think the shredded cheese we could be on the same page. Cheese would be okay. Well, we are at the 40-minute mark, so we better wrap it up so that this will fit in my program. I am so excited you were here today. Thank you very much for coming in and talking about.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I love having this discussion, these kinds of discussions, because I really hope that it is encouraging either writers who maybe are in a slump, writers who aren't sure what they're doing next, or writers who are figuring out how to get started, that there are as many ways to do this as there are people who are doing it.
Oh, yeah.
And just because you make a decision at the beginning of your career doesn't mean that you can never change it.
Oh, definitely.
And so I think these kinds of conversations are the ones where people are like, oh, look at that, I'm not alone. And I'm like, yeah, there's still room in my boat. I even have a little lifesaver over here for you. And so I'm going to make the same offer that I've made before. If you have any questions for myself or Vicky, please drop them into the comment section, and we will do our best to answer them, because if you want to learn, we want to teach. And I will also put Vicky's links into the description box. So next for you, when does the Gingerbread House come out?
November 3rd.
Okay.
It's on order right now. You can go to Amazon or Kobo.
Okay.
And pre-order it, but it comes November 3rd.
Okay. And then where can we find you social media wise?
I'm on Facebook. I also have a website. I actually have two.
Okay.
You can find me at vicky-burkholder.com, or you can find me at sparklingbookraeviews.com.
Yes, I love sparkling book reviews.
Yes. Facebook, I have a Vicky Burkholder page, and I also have a Sparkling Reviews page.
Okay.
I'm on Twitter, but not that often.
Yeah, you're not much of a twit.
No, I'm not much of it. Neither am I much of an Instagrammer, even though I have an account there too. It's mostly my websites and Facebook.
Yeah, that's okay. I am a firm believer in stick with the thing that you actually like doing. I'd rather have more content on something that makes me happy than content all over the place, and all of it is very bland because I didn't know what else to say.
If your listeners are writers,
yes.
My Vicky Burkholder website and also my Vicky Burkholder page in
yes.
Facebook has daily tips and tricks and quotes from other authors that maybe they can get some ideas if they're stuck.
I was hoping you were going to mention that because I really enjoy going over there. If I need a boost, I will pop over and see what you've got to say today to see if it doesn't spark something for me. So absolutely. Okay. So Vicky-Burkholder.com, sparklingbookraeviews.com, and Facebook. And we are all going to run out and get the gingerbread house. Now would be a good idea for pre-order. Or you can wait, I suppose, until November if you must. But again, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate your time. And this was a blast, as always. Talking to you is a blast. Absolutely. And then, so I hope, everybody has a great morning, evening, 3 a.m., whenever it is that you're listening. I hope the rest is good. And so we're going to sign off now. Hopefully I'll see you guys next time. And Burkholder, next time you've got something going on, or if we decide to do a what is all about the market, I will definitely have you back and we will talk some more about all the things.
Thanks.
All right. See you guys later.
Bye.